I'm at what is supposedly the most dangerous stretch of road for cyclists in Britain.
But every day that we focus on the helmets and we ignore that is another day where someone's going to die.
And today, I'm spending the day riding through it. What exactly is going on here? Is it as dangerous as the stats say? And how will I cope riding my bike here for the day? I'm also going to be talking to the Ranty Highwayman, aka Mark Philpotts, a road engineering expert, psychologist Ian Walker, and Simon Monk from the London Cycle Campaign. Because I discovered this spot via an article in British newspaper The Guardian, which seemed to mainly blame lawless cyclists for the issues at play here. Could that really be the case? This is Clapham, a district in southwest London, only 5 miles from the capital centre. It's popular with those who frequently commute into the city, and at rush hour it is extremely busy. But where I'm standing in Clapham right now, between the years of 2019 and 2023, has been claimed to be the most dangerous junction for cyclists riding through, with 29 separate incidents in this stretch of road right here. Now, according to who you ask, the unwanted crown of the most dangerous junction differs. Some put a stretch of road slightly further south than here, others this one behind me right now, including an article by British newspaper The Guardian. Now, I stumbled across that article and was slightly surprised because when I read it, it seemed to me that it was putting a lot of blame on cyclists themselves for all those incidents. Either way, I'm here today to ride up and down this stretch of road to try and find out exactly what's going on. Okay, here we go. So, towards the junction now. We do have a bike lane, but there's these kind of bollards which protect you but also stop you from going out. And this is exactly where the incidents are happening, right there. You go under the junction and then you're through. As I said, middle of the day, but still there's a lot of traffic coming through those side streets. And you're hitting it at quite a lot of pace, and people who are at that junction can't see too far, so they have to kind of nose out. Okay, so I've ridden the junction a few times now, just to kind of get my bearings and figure out what's going on. I've got to say, it is hectic, really hectic. It's kind of one of those high streets in London where so much is going on. There's bus lanes, there's people coming out of shops, there's cars coming outside entrances and streets. So I'm having to concentrate the whole time. And the junction in question, it's actually really fast. It's kind of at the bottom of this bowl. So you pick up a lot of speed quite easily. And you come into it under this bridge, which is shaded. And then there's this crossing, which is where the incidents are happening. Just like now, whoa. And it's like, whoa, there's cars coming out of each side street. And you really just don't know what they're going to do. I can really see why this is a hotspot. As I mentioned, I found out about this junction when I stumbled across an article written by British newspaper The Guardian. Now, they reported on the junction and I found it kind of strange because as I was reading the article, it felt like the most dangerous junction for cyclists was the fault of cyclists and pedestrians, and it seemed to leave out a large proportion of the story. I did reach out to the authors and I didn't get a comment back. Now, the guy is normally pretty on side with the plight of cyclists here in the UK, and I think their reporting is very fair and balanced. I'm not trying to pick an argument against them, but what I do feel is that it's kind of part of a culture war of cyclists that we've seen at the moment, where the narrative, the story is twisted somewhat. And that's why I've come here today to see what is actually going on, because as well, in that article, all the images and video was of this junction behind me right now, which is totally different to where all the incidents are actually happening, 50 metres that way, which is quite strange. To find out more about what might be going on here, I reached out to Simon Monk from the London Cycle Campaign, who tirelessly campaigns for safer cycling in the capital and has continuously pinpointed this exact stretch as a hotspot for incidents. Hey Simon.
Good to meet you.
Yeah, good to meet you too. Thanks for coming.
We have been analysing junctions the last few years. We look at 5 years of collision data We're looking constantly at clusters of junctions, not just, what you would, I think most cyclists, most people would consider the dangerous junctions, the really big ones, the really complicated ones. We're actually looking at every single side road junction, the whole of London. And this is like the number 3 on our map, it's the number 1 on the Guardian's map. And you can just see why, So this isn't a signalised junction. What this is a rat run. So right here, you have a load of rat running drivers who are cutting a set of lights just up there. So they're avoiding the set of lights. Their sat nav is telling them to do this. They're saving 20 seconds, 30 seconds on their journey. But because there's so many of them turning out and then some of them turning in at various times of the day, on top of what is one of the old cycle superhighways. So you can see the wands just here. You can see the blue paint. So this is one of the oldest cycle superhighways that Boris put in. And since 2020, it's had a little minor upgrade, but none of the junctions have been fixed. So you've got thousands of cyclists. I think it's like 10,000 a day coming down here, between the morning peak going that way and the evening peak coming back this way, plus gig economy riders, plus loads of other people riding here. And they're going straight down here into the path of these guys who are trying to turn out. And they're not looking necessarily for cyclists. They're trying to work out if they can get out before the bus or, whatever. So these guys turning, plus this high flow of cyclists, is a disaster zone. And we know what the result is, which is loads of collisions here.
It's remarkable actually riding through it as someone who's ridden all their life. And I felt pretty vulnerable coming through here because you don't know what these drivers here or road users are going to do, and it's quite a short window for them to react to see you just because their view's blocked this way as well.
So in fact, here we go. Woman coming out is then got another guy coming from the rat run over there.
Yeah.
So they're trying to interact. The last thing they're thinking about is someone coming through on a bike.
What's the solution to this? How do you make this junction safer, and what are you campaigning for as a group?
In this case here, we talk about loads of junctions across London. Some of them are those really massive signalised junctions. They need a particular kind of approach. But here, we're talking about those 3 letters, LTN. So we're talking about a low traffic neighbourhood back that way and a low traffic neighbourhood back that way, or to use old school technical terminology, a modal filter. Cut that rat run, stop the drivers from coming out there, force them to go up to the lights and turn around. It puts 30 seconds on their journey. It's not the end of the world, but it will save every single person's, injury, lives that was here. Because you go from thousands of vehicles coming out there and coming out and trying to edge out constantly to, hundreds of 100 vehicles a day who are all like, oh yeah, I can come out, it's all calm, etc. So the whole way that this road works, currently that many turning movements, that's your problem. So reduce the turning movements.
Sounds simple, but why isn't it happening? Why are changes that may improve safety so hard to push through? And why does cycling seem to be getting drawn into a so-called culture war? The answer is political will. To find out why this may be the case, I caught up with Ian Walker, traffic, transport and environmental psychologist. He recently explained the concept of moto-normativity to Psy on this channel. So I was interested to get his perspective on this.
Ian, thanks so much for talking to us. I'm really interested to get your take on this, because when you look at a road network, you look at the junction like the one I was on in London, it seems evident and obvious that there's ways to make it safer, but this isn't being done. There's pushback from certain elements of the community. Why is there that pushback, and why can it be so hard to get these changes implemented?
There's quite a common misunderstanding amongst people. First of all, what is the difference between a street and a road? And a lot of people think they're the same thing, but a street actually has a lot more jobs than just moving vehicles around. But even on the roads, a lot of people have the idea that fundamentally roads are for driving. The proper, correct way to get from A to B is in a car, and that people who aren't in cars are doing something wrong or childish or playing a game in grown-up space. So people do often push back because they see people cycling as somehow breaking the rules or almost violating the norms of how we're meant to behave in those spaces.
What's the solution to that? Like, how do you think you encourage people to realise that there are other ways of using a road which are potentially better than driving in a car?
You could try to shift people's perceptions by telling them And we probably should do more of that. There should be more messaging to say, this is a space for everybody, you've got to share it nicely. But probably better is actually to do it through design. If a street is designed so that pedestrians and cyclists are welcome and safe and have plenty of space and can't be run over at a whim, and if a street is designed so that it's sort of a bit inconvenient to drive down it fast, then those design choices send a very powerful message about what the street is for.
And why do we hear so much kind of protest when we see these sort of changes implemented and they come in and you do get groups who are up in arms about a low traffic neighbourhood being put into their area? Why is that? And people really kind of get quite emotive about this.
I think different people have different reasons for pushing back on things like LTMs and traffic controls. For some, I suspect it's a little bit selfish. They just want to drive and not have anyone question this, and will resist anything that makes life a little bit less convenient for them, even if it's at the expense of others. But for some people, I think, our research and other research suggests that people have the idea that cars going first in the street is just the correct way of things. And it feels like when you question this, you're questioning the established order of society. And some people don't respond very well to having what feels like a massive certainty brought into question.
And I'm being speculative here too. We've kind of noticed in a way over the last few years, there's been much talk of a culture war. I personally have seen ways in which cycling's been drawn into that. Why is that? Is that one of the reasons why you think it has?
Again, we're all speculating a little bit here because this is big, complicated stuff. But it's hard not to speculate that the fact cycling is quite a minority pursuit has got to be part of this. It's a relatively small proportion of the population who cycle around. It's quite easy to other that group. And of course, language like mammals and so on is very much about othering that group and making this an outgroup of them who do that stuff. And if people are trying to assert dominance or maintain a position of power in society, it's always very useful to have another outgroup that is used as a bit of a bogeyman to blame things on.
Mark Philpotts, otherwise known as the Ranty Highwayman, is an engineer and sustainable mobility design specialist. His blog of that same name provides a fascinating insight into the world of road design that many of us wouldn't even have considered. Road networks are complicated, and sometimes change is tougher to achieve than first imagined. So personally, I was intrigued to see what he would make of this junction and why he thinks it's dangerous from a different perspective.
How you doing?
How's it going? Thanks for coming along.
Yeah, no problem.
We're on the junction.
The junction.
It's busy as I imagine it will ever be. So what are you kind of seeing here then at this junction, Mark? What's like jumping out at you?
So you've got obviously loads of traffic coming out of Lendal Terrace, and they're going all directions. So it's left, ahead, and right. You've got that bus is standing now, so that's a visual block to people coming out there. And anyone cycling is having to kind of whip round the bus and come back in. You've got the keep clear markings on the road because somebody at some point knew that this was a problem.
Yeah, so out of interest, what are the keep clear markings supposed to do? Because no one's really been paying much attention to them. Are you supposed to obviously not drive into them?
You are meant to keep back from them, and the idea is to let those people essentially turn right from the two side roads. That's why they're there. So, guy in the white car there they're now facing off. It's
like there's a complete standoff in the middle of the road. And it's almost like that situation, like, shall I go, shall you go? And then they both go, and then like, you've got cyclists trying to go through the middle of it like this. From kind of like an engineering and design perspective, in like the perfect world, would you do to try and make this safer?
So really what you have to do is take that step back. I think, right, who do we need to get through? We have to get buses through. We have to give access for deliveries. And we probably want to prioritise cycling in general. And then really private vehicles are going to have to work around that system. In terms of the junction itself, it's probably not an awful lot more you could do with the layout, other than you could force people to turn left here from Lendal Terrace.
Yeah.
You could force people to turn left from, is that Cowden Road?
Cowden Road.
So you get rid of this cross-traffic problem, so that reduces the amount of conflict and the amount of instances of conflict, and it reduces this general friction we're seeing.
And how easy is it to actually do that? Because to me that sounds like you're literally just putting a sign in and being like, you only turn left, you turn left.
I mean, you could do it with an experimental traffic order in a few weeks and it's running. What I don't know is what the knock-on effect will be further up the network. So that's why you've got to zoom out and try and work out what would happen. Anybody going up the parallel road behind these shops, wanting to turn left, can't turn left. They have to come through here to turn left. So they're sort of doing a bit of a loop round. There's another road, I think it's Landor Road, which is over the back. And if you're trying to get out here and turn left, you have to come through this estate as well. So you've probably got something fairly similar going on opposite, and it's all coming together towards chaos.
Okay, so we've come up from the specific junction, which I've been kind of camped out at all day. This is the junction up from that kind of road network, and you mentioned you thought that traffic wasn't using this to turn left. You can kind of see that now because you're not allowed to turn left here.
Just a very quick look on Google shows that the banned left turn here, so this is coming out of Bedford Road turning left. That ban was put in towards the end of 2020, beginning of 2021, as best we can see. And the actual curb line itself is still sweeping, so that's never been changed.
As Mark explains, it's actually the design of the junction and road network further up that is pushing traffic to this pinch point where all the incidents I've come to investigate are happening. One problem may have been solved up here, but it's obviously caused another further down.
Starting with the buses, they have to turn right here, then they're going down Bedford Road here, and then they're having to turn right
On the cut
Lendal
through.
Terrace, then to turn left back onto the main road.
Wow.
So that's probably why nobody's actually touched Lendal Terrace at the moment, because of the bus route.
Ah, that's really interesting. Because for me, I'm kind of just at the junction, I'm looking at it, I'm like, why can we sort this today? But obviously there's other things that are leading into that.
Yeah.
A key part of the issue here, and I read that it was framed as like people jumping red lights, cyclists going through red lights.
Yes.
And we have seen that here. I'm not condoning it, but is that part of the issue that's going on? Like, what's your view on traffic lights for pedestrians and for cyclists and for cars?
Traffic lights, most of the traffic signs you see on the street, pretty much everything is there to manage the movement and parking of motor vehicles. It's not there to manage pedestrians, it's not there to manage cyclists. Because if you've got a situation where you've got a really, really busy motor traffic junction and you're trying to cross the road to get somewhere, you need traffic lights to give you a fighting chance to actually get the opportunity to cross. So it's not a safety thing, it's a management thing. So if you successfully squeeze out a lot of the traffic, you can start taking away some of those controls. So the traffic that does remain isn't so constrained anyway. Actually, everybody has a better time of it. So if you go to places like, I would say Rotterdam, you can go to Amsterdam, go to Utrecht, especially Utrecht are getting rid of one of their ring roads or massively downgrading it. They have squeezed out the traffic, they've built alternatives for people. So the people driving now are the ones that have to drive. I mean, it gets to the point, if you go to some of the older Dutch cities that have been doing this for a long time, properly for 40 years, and they might be on their third or fourth iteration, some of the streets that had cycle tracks and traffic signals are now just basic streets. Wow. It's so quiet, they've taken the cycle tracks out, they're not needed anymore. Really because, I mean, buses will take a big part of the slack. Cycles have to be part of the answer here. Walking, London's always been a walking city anyway, and that has to take up some slack. And again, we're back to the private cars, we've got to squeeze even more out.
What's the problem here is the person wearing the helmet, which the Dutch don't do, yet have lower head injury rates than we do over the whole population. We can focus on the tiny issue, which might be a very real issue and might be responsible for some of the worst injuries we see. Or we can focus on the drivers which are causing massive amounts of the road danger. And safe system theory, Vision Zero, whatever you want to call it, says we should focus on the big issues first. Once they're out of the way, we can start to look at the smaller issues. But every day that we focus on the helmets and we ignore that is another day where someone's going to die. So
I've been here for the day now. I've ridden this junction countless times. I've got to say I'm actually pretty exhausted. Just the sheer concentration of passing through here, especially now as the days progressed and there's way more traffic on the road and lots of different types of vehicles. It's like an assault on the senses. I'm absolutely drained, but it's been so interesting to hear from Mark, from Ian, from Simon as well about what is actually going on here. It's definitely opened my eyes a lot, because coming here I thought I'd see what was happening, be like, right, this is a simple issue, we can fix it, we can make cyclists safer. That is kind of the case, but at the same time there's a lot more going on that I hadn't thought about, and yeah, you could potentially fix this, but it can cause something else further down the line. And I think Mark put it pretty well actually, and just in terms of what everyone has said the same. We just need to encourage people out of their cars and into more active modes of transport, or modes of transport that aren't going to cause quite as much traffic, because essentially it's the traffic that is the issue here. It's just absolutely gridlocked there now. And if you are going to ride a bike through there, you can see how it quickly becomes so treacherous. So as I think about looking at the broader picture of how we can get less cars on the road, more people on bikes, more people on buses, more people into the train, and that is definitely going to help fix issues like this, as well as coming and looking at it at that kind of micro level and trying to make our roads safer in specific locations. But yeah, it's been fascinating to be here for the day. I'm absolutely exhausted. There's more that's going on than meets the eye. Let me know in the comment section down below what you thought about this video, and if there's any specific roads, junctions near to you that you'd like to highlight, or any issues which you think you could potentially have a better solution than what we've covered in this video to solve. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this video useful, and see you on the next one.